Welcome to Homegrown Wealth, where you get the knowledge of using home ownership to help you build generational wealth. Today, I'm going to help you determine, does it make sense for you to buy or does it make sense for you to rent? So, pretty much we'll be discussing renting versus buying. With high interest rates and shifting markets, is buying still worth it? Or should you stay renting? So this is what I'm going to help break down so that you know what the costs and the benefits are to help you make the best informed decision. So rental living benefits, and what does that look like? With a rental, you have a landlord, and the landlord is pretty much, depending on the lease, responsible for repairs. Now, there are some leases to where the landlord could hold you liable for certain things, or they're taking care of everything. So the one benefit is, hey, you're not having to come out of pocket for big major costs or any costly repairs. But the downside to that is, when will it get taken care of? And that's based off how good your landlord is. So are they the type to address issues quickly? Are they the type to get someone out who is reputable, who is going to go ahead and get things taken care of the first time around the best way and not the cheaper way? Then, on top of that, when it comes to renting, it is a controlled rent. You aren't putting down as large of a down payment to start up your lease. Usually it's first month rent, security deposit. But now renting is, to me, more expensive, especially when they want you to make 3 times the rent, which is very difficult in certain areas. And I would say now, I think the average rent is running about $1,000 to $1,200 a month. So you really have to break down those costs on whether or not it makes sense for you to become a renter or to stay a renter, or does it make sense for you to look into home ownership? Now, I'm not your typical agent. I'm not the one that's going to be like, oh, buying is cheaper than rent or buying is the same as rent. You really have to make what's the most best informed decision for you. Now, when it comes to buying, this is what I will tell you. It's based off your market and what the average price point looks like. So in my market, typically you still can get a home for about $225, $250 that is going to be move-in ready. It should not come with any major issues. It should be something that can be negotiated between you and the seller. So it shouldn't be to where you're moving in right away and you're having big expenses. But when it comes to home ownership, one, depending on your loan type, you probably will need a down payment. Down payments could be anywhere from 0, or it can be 3.5%, it can be 5%, it could be 10, or it could be 20. So it just depends on your income, how much you have saved, and what loan program you qualify for based off how much you'll have to put down when it comes to a home. So the main question I always get is everyone asks me, well, what do I need to save up for a down payment? And I tell people, typically, if you've been looking online and you know if you're comfortable with, say, $300,000, then if you say $300,000 times 5%, typically that should give you a good starting point on what you should have saved. Now, you could, like I said, have a lower down payment of 3.5%, or you could go up to 10 or 20 on that $300,000. So it just depends on where it falls. Now, one of the biggest things that is beneficial to being a homeowner is you do get to claim the interest that you pay every month. You get to claim that on your taxes every year. So that is a benefit. Also, you have, I'm not going to say a controlled mortgage payment, because your principal and your interest will never change. Now, what is liable to change are property taxes and homeowners insurance. Now, homeowners insurance, you can shop around for a cheaper option if it were to increase beyond what you could afford. With property taxes, it's just pretty much what it is. If the property taxes go up well above what you're able to afford, then the option is that you could possibly look at selling the home. Depending on when you bought the home, you will make money off the home because you have what is called equity. That is not something you get when you're a renter. There are so many people who've been able to move so far ahead in life because they had equity. Whether someone in their family passed and left them a home that they were able to then sell and make money off of. I had several first-time home buyers now who are selling their starter home and moving into their second home. And I mean, the money they've been able to make off their home, they've been able to still put down a down payment. They've been able to pay off cars, vehicles, pay down credit cards, afford a nice family vacation. So the possibilities are endless when it comes to home ownership, where rentals is pretty much limited. Now, I say all that to say, when it comes to the home ownership setbacks, a home is like a child. You just never know. So it could be to where you go in and hey, the HVAC unit was working fine at inspection, there were no issues. You move in a month and a half later and it could go out. It could be a big issue, it could be a little issue, but I always recommend that you're not spending your last trying to get into a home, because a home is really another child. You got to run that plumbing every day. You got to check on your electrical. You know, you got to keep an eye out for leaks and things like that. So if you're not prepared for what it could cost to help you take care or maintain a home, then that could be one setback when it comes to the maintenance. Now, I say this too, because I know a lot of people are like, well, what if I get a new construction? Typically, they come with a warranty for 1 year as far as mechanical systems. The structure usually lasts anywhere from 5 to 10 years, depending on the builder. So it really depends on what builder you go with. But even with that being said, if you get past that 1 year warranty, yes, you may have certain things covered, but you're still expected to come out of pocket for the rest. Now you can get what's called a home warranty, and not every home warranty company is the same, so you definitely want to do your research. But a home warranty covers things that homeowners insurance would not cover. So if you have appliance that goes out, if your HVAC system were to have any issues, if there was a leak behind the wall, things like that, then they would come in and they would help you take care of those items. So that's also one thing that could assist you, and it's usually a couple of $100 a year, maybe up to $1,000, depending on how big you want to go with the plan. So when it comes to renting versus home ownership, you really have to determine what would be the best route for you. I say the biggest thing between determining if you're going to rent or if you're going to buy, how long do you plan to be in the area? If you want to be in the area 3 years or less, it may not make sense to buy unless you're coming up on a really great, awesome deal. You might want to rent. If you know you're going to be in the area 3+ years longer, if this is like where your family is, if this is where, you know, everyone's located, this is your setup, hey, you need to look at buying, secure some roots. Right now, I just think that home ownership is just starting to slip from a lot of people, and I just don't want people to miss out on the opportunity to become a homeowner, because I'm truly seeing it happen in real time. So hopefully that does help you determine renting versus buying. And if you want more information on home maintenance, you can always refer back to episode 4, where we went a little bit more in detail as far as home maintenance concerns. All right, so now let's get into our questions. So the first question, I can't afford the type of home I want. I need at least 4 bedrooms, but the homes available at the top of my budget are no more than 3. My landlord is good to me, and the place I'm renting has 4 bedrooms, but I don't want to rent forever. What's your advice? So my advice on that would be, are you willing to let go of one of the bedrooms that you're renting now in order to, say, get into a starter home, sit in that for a few years, and possibly sell it to make some money off of it to help you get into a larger home down the road? You really have to weigh the pros and cons of that. Are your children small? Are they able to share a room? Are they bigger? Do they kind of want their own space, their own privacy? But just know that the longer that you wait, the possibility of home ownership becoming more out of reach or more expensive. So I would definitely say you have to weigh your pros and cons with that. Sometimes you could luck up and you could get a 3-2 with a bonus. The bonus may not be like a full bedroom. Maybe there's not a closet, but there is some type of system you can set up to help you have a closet. So there's different ways to go about that. All right, the second question. I qualify for a home, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to pay my mortgage and pay for a cost repair like roof or HVAC. If something happens, does this mean that I'm not ready to buy? So this is like a really great question. I really love this. Okay. Your HVAC system. So typically when you go under contract for a home, you're going to get a home inspection. Like I said, home inspections aren't 100% to where they're going to find every single issue, because if the home has been vacant and the systems just have not been used enough to determine if there's going to be any issue or any lag, you just never know. But this is what I will say. When it comes to an HVAC, they're going to check for a differential of 15 degrees. Now, you can always go a step further and you can pay for HVAC inspection. That's where an HVAC technician will come out. They will pull the unit apart, take a look at it, all the codes, all that good stuff. So you know what you're looking at, and you know what you can negotiate as far as repairs with the seller, if it needs to be replaced or if any parts need to be updated or anything of that nature. Roofs are usually every 30 years. So if you get like an architectural roof, every 30 years, you'll probably be looking at a replacement. Could be sooner depending on the weather and the area. Composition roofs are about 20 years. Now, if you're the type that you don't mind walking up on your roof and blowing it off, it could last you a little bit longer. But if that's not the case, then just know that those repairs aren't always back to back. Because I know a lot of people think that your HVAC should last you at least what? I know mine have lasted me at least 8 to 10 years, if not more. So it's not one of those things to where you're doing a big expense every year. Now, depending on the age of the house and what was negotiated, if it was sold as is, you might incur a little bit more when it comes to issues. But those are things that you probably should have planned for, and you probably have money put aside to make those repairs as soon as you bought the home. So I would suggest that wouldn't be what holds you up, because there are ways around that now too as well. All right, so let's get into our history note. So, how did renting and owning become the options for housing? So today's history note covers one factor. In episode 3, the history note spoke about the GI Bill. The bill reversed the trend from renting to buying housing. Prior to World War II, most people rented homes, 53.4% in 1930. The GI Bill expanded those options to where mortgage financing became more available in the 50s, which increased American home ownership. So today, about a third of Americans rent. Before the bill, access to home ownership was very limited and resulted in some populations living in unsanitary conditions. Sharecropping in rural America, and tenement housing in urban America, followed by the creation of public housing throughout the United States in the 1930s, were common choices. So that's very neat. So we went from half of the U.S. renting to now just a third renting. So that is progress. So today, let's do some takeaways on what we discussed. So as you're making your list on whether or not to rent versus buy, always remember, renting keeps you from costly, unexpected expenses and from building equity. Home ownership opens you up to unexpected expenses, but yet you're able to create wealth. Short-term versus long-term benefits, make your list. Do a pros and cons. Only you can make a decision that it's best for you when it comes from renting or either buying. All right, so thank you for watching the episode today on renting versus buying. I know home ownership can seem scary, but I promise you it's not. And with the right professional like myself to help guide you, I promise you I'm going to hold your hand through it and it won't be scary at all. So if you're on the fence about home ownership, let's reach out to me. Or if you know someone that's on the fence, let's reach out. I love to get a call, a text, a DM, an email, or a message. Any way you see fit. I'll see you at the next episode.